The fact that he is in Montana's shadow, if he would have done this with any other organization, he'd be a Hall of Fame quarterback. Because he followed Montana, you know, he's the Gene Bartow of quarterbacks.
We've been beat by these guys 3 times, and they've been very difficult beatings. I mean, they were ones where you're on the way to the Super Bowl, and they're very hard to take. And they played better than us in those games. It was just nice to come back and win one.
Today was very, very key for this team, and Cowboys have given them fits the last couple of years, and we want to come in and change that.
21-14 was the final. The day after, the night before, the 49ers finally were able to win one against the Dallas Cowboys. A big win. We're going to find out how big today from a very big man. A man who is on the Hall of Fame ballot, by the way, this year in the National Football League. You know him as just Todd Christensen. We know him as Mr. Huckles. I don't know where that comes from, but Huckles. That's right, Mr. Huckles. That's an old phrase we had heard before. Anyway, how are you?
Nice application. Lovely segue, Roy. Gee, I'm so happy to be here, Mr. Huckles.
Good to see you, Mr. Let me ask you about this, first of all.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the Niners in just a moment.
Can't
but
wait.
you did another kind of former Bay Area team, maybe going back to the Bay Area, and that's the Raiders versus the Rams. There was a brawl at Anaheim Stadium. People figured there was a brawl at a Raider game would be in the Coliseum, but a brawl in Anaheim Stadium in the Raider game. What kind of brawl is up in Anaheim?
Very different,
Yeah.
very different. And of course, you know, the Raider fans, how tough they can be. I mean, they really come to fight. The people that came to Orange County, unfortunately, didn't quite get it. They said, you do that one more time, I'm going to hurt your feelings. Yeah, very different.
It's a tad different.
Yeah,
What, they throw
different.
things too, do they? I mean, they throw chains like at the Coliseum, like, you know, the bikers throw chains. What do they throw?
Well, you know, they were throwing food. It didn't look good. Sushi, mayonnaise, bread. It wasn't quite the same thing.
Okay. Does that mean anything to you, by the way, the Raiders beating the Rams, being a former Raider?
Yes, boy, oh boy, that just... Nah, come on. I mean, it's business now. I've been out
Just
5
across
years.
town. And they're going to be back in Oakland, you think? You think they're before long?
Well, being that, let me see, Mr. Huckles thinks, come on, I don't know. What am I, Kreskin all of a sudden? I have no idea.
All right, we'll talk more about the Raiders and a lot more controversy about the Raiders in just a few moments. But let's talk about the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. 6 games left in this season. People saying down the road it could mean home field advantage for the Niners. That didn't mean much last year, by the way. But what did this game mean for San Francisco over Dallas?
Well, it didn't mean much 2 years ago. I think what it meant here is psychologically, San Francisco was in a position where they absolutely had to win. I agree with what Dan Deerdorf had said in the paper, which was that if Dallas had won the game yesterday, mail them the trophy. It's over. Because psychologically, they would have had it all over them. I think this was a situation in which San Francisco played with a desperation. It had a Super Bowl feel to them.
It's 5 in a row now. I mean, for desperation, they were on a riding a pretty good crest. It didn't seem like they were a desperate team going in.
Well, but Roy, everybody knows in the National Football League, the so-called cognoscenti, that it's San Francisco, Dallas, and everybody else. You know, this was the game, and San Francisco triumphed. Now they have to feel very good about themselves.
Dallas counters by saying, hey, Aikman's got the bad thumb. Novacek's not 100%. Alvin Harper not 100%. This was not the real Dallas team anyway. They still came within 7.
Well, I believe it was Don Meredith who once said, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, yeah, so what? You know, those are built-in excuses. However, I will say this. In the rematch, be sure that if it comes down to the NFC Championship game, they will bring that up for a psychological advantage. Hey, now our guys are all healthy. We'll do it.
Talk about Steve Young. We're going to see him here throwing to Brett Jones. And here's a guy that much maligned quarterback efficiency. And people say, the hell with that. Doesn't mean anything, quarterback efficiency. But he did lead the league in passing for 3 straight years. Was he maybe too much maligned, or did he need this win for his career or for the critics to get off his back?
Well, it certainly wasn't his best game. I think the issue here was not so much that, from my vantage point, he hasn't anything to prove. As you just mentioned, 3 straight years he's led the league in passing. Twice he's gotten the team to the NFC Championship game. You figure that think about this. Here's an interesting point with regards to this. Remember the game in 1990, after the 90 season against the Giants, when Joe Montana breaks his hand. Okay, if Roger Craig doesn't drop the ball, Steve Young is the quarterback for San Francisco in the Super Bowl. Maybe they beat the Buffalo Bills, then we don't even think about this. The fact that he is in Montana's shadow, if he would have done this with any other organization, he'd be a Hall of Fame quarterback. Because he followed Montana, you know, he's the Gene Bartow of quarterbacks.
That's a good line. Do you think that in some way, though, the 49er receivers, Taylor, Rice, Brent Jones, believe more now over one game than they did the day before?
That's old news. I think that's old news. Yeah. And look at the fact, too, Roy, that yesterday he didn't have a big game. 11 for 21, 100 and some yards. You know, the most, what he did was running the football, but they won the football game. Give credit to the defense.
Absolutely.
Give credit to the defense.
And free agency, too, which I know you're a big proponent of the NFL's, you know, free agency program and the way it works. And how it benefits all of the players. Right?
Well, the fact is that if my mother had me 10 years late, I'd say it's great. But in fact, she had me 10 years too soon. I have no
What's the biggest addition for the 49ers, do you think, free agency-wise? You think Norton?
Oh, I don't think it's a no-brainer, Deion Sanders. Especially now, the way in the National Football League you've got to throw. To have a cover cornerback, that's a diamond. I mean, those people, and especially combine that with the fact with the new rules, to have that one guy that you say, we can put him out there, we can blitz, we can do all of these other things defensively. Absolutely, he's the most valuable acquisition.
Makes a difference possibly for a Super Bowl team. Possibly. That's the one ingredient they missed.
Well, think about, too, he has the interception. He goes out for a little while with the pain. They get the big throw to Harper that maybe they wouldn't have had. The confidence factor, the fact that this is a big play guy, everybody rallies around a great player like that. I wouldn't go so far as to agree with Howie Long, who says he's the best player in football. But as Bum Phillips would say, you know, the roll call for who is the best, he's on it. It's a short list.
Take me around a tour of what's developing in the National Football League. We're going to take a look at Ben Coates, who makes some nice catches here as a tight end. You don't see the tight end utilized in asking a tight end, former tight end, as readily utilized as you did in years past. Is that a coincidence? Is that a function of what the coaches are thinking about? Why aren't you seeing the tight end as more of a threat?
Well, Raymond Berry is the one former coach of the New England Patriots who had the line that the best tight ends are now power forwards in the NBA for that particular skill. It just so happens the man that you pointed out here, Ben Coates, has the requisite skill. He has the height, he's got the strength, speed. You know, he has it all. He's the best tight end in the National Football League, on the verge of breaking some sacrosanct records of mine.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit later. Listen to Vincent Brown, also of the Pats, talking about the press and what he thought of the press after the game yesterday. It wasn't very, very accessible, shall we say. Listen to Vincent Brown, and we'll talk about the press and the relationship with the player. Here's Vincent Brown.
I'll tell you why. Because you guys in this area didn't give us a chance in hell to win in this game. That's why. Nobody in this area gave us a chance. Every person I talked to, every person I heard on TV, saw in the newspapers, anything. The Patriots don't stand a chance to win in this game. That's right, bro.
Now, is he thin-skinned? Does he have a point? Obviously, the athlete has no obligation to talk to the press, but do you think there's a point where if he feels that he's been betrayed by the press as an athlete, and because of that wants to distance himself?
No, I think that he's probably betrayed by ESPN. This is cable. Why did they have to beat that out?
Right.
Okay. See, that's what I think his feeling is that he thinks he's a little sensitive over the fact that he can't really express himself fully. No, I think there's a situation where inevitably the team was struggling. I don't know how many straight games they'd lost. They hadn't scored in a while. They had this dramatic come-from-behind victory, and he's irritated over the people that are bad-mouthing his team. Happens all the time.
Did you, as a player, resent the press? Or what didn't they understand about what you did? Maybe a better question.
Well, I think that what happens is that you have people that are living vicariously through one another's prowess. I mean, it's a parasitical relationship.
Not Ron Prowers, anyway. No. Okay, go ahead.
No, that's Paulus, but close. Good try. I think what it is, Roy, is that you get a situation where people cannot empathize with what's happening on the field, yet they attempt to. There are too many pseudo-experts. And the interesting point about now is that it's continued to proliferate. As an example that I cite in the National Football League now, assistant coaches in the National Football League, almost 75% of them have never played professional football. Now you've got more and more theorists, more and more experts, more and more radio talk show people who think they know what's happening on the field, and they don't. And so, you know, we have the Siskel and Eberts, as it were, to make that metaphorical, people that don't really understand what's going on, but we've labeled them experts, and as a result, they have carte blanche to say whatever they want.
Before we go to the break, Pardee is out, Gilbride is out, apparently Fisher is in Houston. Not a big surprise, but why now?
Well, I think the loss to Cincinnati was the proverbial straw that broke the back.
But why not? I mean, still, it's not going to change anything. Why not do it next year? Why not do it in the offseason?
You know what? I got to get to my phone because I think Bud Adams called me. I want to know what I thought about this.
Oh, Bud! We'll come back with Todd Christensen. We're going to talk some more about the National Football League, specifically the Cleveland Browns. They look like they're for real. We'll see them in action defensively. And, of course, you know, this weekend they also had a victory over the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. A little bit later, we'll get his view on the Raiders' criticism by the former team doctor. More with Todd after this.
Up Close is brought to you by Office Depot, taking care of business with guaranteed low prices on thousands of brand name office supplies. By the Discover Card, the card with the big payback. And by Ace Hardware. Ace is the place for better values.
This holiday season, while you're shopping, we'll be dropping a ton of money in the Discover Card Big Payback. Just use your card for a chance to win weekly bonus prizes and the ultimate $1 million grand prize. It pays to Discover, the card with the big payback.
Hey, way down in LaBelle, Florida, Ace is the place.
Because we're ready to help.
With incredible season savings, like this Black & Decker 3/8-inch variable speed reversible drill for $24.99.
Hey, Ace is the place with the helpful hardware folks.
The all-new Subaru Legacy looks beautiful against a photographer's backdrop, but its true beauty is best seen against the elements. Subaru all-wheel drive is the ultimate safety feature. It reacts instantly, transferring power automatically from the wheels that slip to the wheels that grip. So you can safely weather even the worst of weather. The all-season, all-road, all-wheel drive Subaru Legacy. The beauty of all-wheel drive.
Watch how fast Dristan nasal spray works.
What do you smell?
I can't smell anything.
Use Dristan nasal spray. Now smell.
It's an orange. Dristan nasal spray just works incredible. I can't believe it.
Dristan nasal spray. Fast, effective relief.
Panasonic presents a unique and highly evolved smooth operator. The Smooth Operator 2 with float control is the only razor to unite the comfort of twin independent floating heads with the closeness of a warm, wet shave. Don't try this with any plugged-in razor. The Smooth Operator wet-dry razors from Panasonic. Smoother than you ever thought you'd be.
Just laying on them. They doing something to them underneath the alley. I don't see that. They doing something. They don't just lay on you. They grabbing your throat. They poking your eyes. They doing something.
That's what Kelly said about it.
And that ain't football. That's not football. That's not how the game's supposed to be played.
Kenyon Rashid, Todd Christensen, saying, more or less, the Phoenix Cardinals are dirty football players. What do you know?
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Have you heard this?
Really? Well, see, he doesn't understand. NFL used to stand for the no-fun league. Now it's lots of fun. You can get poked and gouged. That's part of the game. You should have known that going in. And why complain about it now? They're not going to play Phoenix again this year.
What's the dirtiest thing someone ever did to you on the field?
Gentleman named of Pete Shaw.
Pete Shaw?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mention his name. Pete Shaw. He was a reserve defensive back for the San Diego Chargers. On a block one time, he reached under my face mask, and he hadn't cut his fingernails, and just drug them right across my face.
Now, what do you say, Mr. Referee?
I said, doggone it, why do you do that? I said, it's going to ruin my shot on Firestone. I'm going to have to...
Does it work on some players? I mean, does the cheap shot stuff take players out of it? Did it work against Jerry Rice last year with James Washington? Players who try to continuously push a player, or can players use that to become even better?
Well, I think now especially you see a lot of it because the trash talking is in vogue. When I was playing, the very good players didn't even bother with it. I remember when I matched up against Kenny Easley, who I think is the best safety in football in the last 20 years.
Right.
Apologies to Ronnie Lott. Never said a word, but he didn't have to. You knew he was good. You know, the guys, inevitably the guys that are talking, it seems to me, are a lot of the guys who try to get a psychological advantage, but the guys that can play, you don't bother with.
The Cleveland Browns are faring quite well. They're 8-2 right now. Some are saying, yes, now it is official, they are for real. They're no longer beaten up on teams in the AFC. Yesterday, Sunday, they beat the Eagles in Philadelphia and handily. We'll take a look at Rippon, who has more or less supplanted Testaverde. This is earlier action from earlier in the season. How good is this football team? How good is Rippon at this point?
Well, first of all, I'm trying to figure out what supplant is. I always pronounce it.
Supplant.
Thank you.
All right,
okay.
thank you. This is a literary critic.
No.
Supplant.
But in answer to your question, taking substance over style, I think of the winning in Philadelphia, yeah, that can't be a fluke. And how many times can you say that? 8-2, oh, it doesn't really count. Well, these are the people on the schedule. What's going to tell, of course, is in December when they have to play Kansas City, Dallas, Pittsburgh, and there's one other team that I can't think of right now, but it's a serious schedule in December.
Jeff Blake, the new fair-haired boy, I guess, in the National Football League, Cincinnati Bengal quarterback, and now the Bengals get another win. We'll take a look at him again against Seattle. This is a pass that set up a winning field goal in recent weeks. Jeff Blake, does he save David Shula's job? Does David Shula's job need saving time?
Well, I don't know about that, but this kid sure is fun to watch.
Yeah.
Thrown for over 300 yards 3 straight times. It just goes to show once again that judging talent is not an exact science in the NFL. 8th or 9th round pick out of East Carolina, sat forever with the Jets, finally gets his opportunity to play and show his wares. I mean, he's terrific.
Jimmy Johnson on the Fox TV said yesterday that he thought that the bias against the black quarterback is systemic, that basically it goes on, it will always go on. They're not going to give the guy the second and third look, especially if they come from a small program. You buy that? You think it's true?
Well, I think that certainly is a contributing factor. I'm of a mind that I'd like to think that if you can play, that you get your opportunity. But I think there has to be some merit to that because of the fact, as we look in the National Football League, basically we have, what, now 3 out of the 28 teams. And when you figure that African Americans make up close to, I believe it's 65% of the National Football League, there has to be something said for that.
Do you think, generally speaking, that a football player with some talent left, with a higher contract, higher numbers, is now going to be dumped because of the situation with the salary caps? Or do you think that always, in the Warren Moon case, he gets a pretty good deal, always the high echelon player will always get the nod, even late in his career? Has it changed? Has it swung over?
Well, of course it's changed. I mean, the examples of Phil Simms and Art Monk certainly reveal that. In the case of Warren Moon, clearly he had a lot left. So that's always going to happen, and that's the nature of the beast. I think it's bad for football. But again, the players were in a hurry to get free agency, and oh yeah, we'll sign, we'll do it. They didn't see the long-term ramifications of the salary cap, which now have actually come to fruition at a sooner period than they would have imagined.
Back to the Oilers, where would the Oilers be with Warren Moon? How dumb was it to dump Moon this year?
Well, in retrospect, it was a bad decision, but of course at the time what they're looking at is they're looking at somebody who's going to be 38 in November. They're looking at Cody Carlson, who had been 10-4 as a starter. They had invested $2.8 million per year with Cody Carlson. You know, who would have thought at the beginning of the season he was going to get hurt in the first game? Who would have thought the offensive line would have struggled? It seemed like they had a lot of defensive talent, but losing the leadership of William Fuller and Sean Jones certainly hurt. And plus the fact that people pointed out ad nauseum down in Houston, they decided to junk the run and shoot after having 7 straight playoff appearances, try to go with a tight end offense. You can't do that in midstream, hence the problems they're having right now.
Todd Christensen, 5 years at NBC, now a Hall of Fame candidate. We'll come back, talk about that. We'll also talk about a lot of criticism levied at his former organization, the Los Angeles Raiders. More with Toddy after this.
Music Express, voted #1 by the National Limousine Association, has offices in Los Angeles and the East Coast. Music Express can handle your corporate needs anywhere in the U.S. and worldwide.
It's here. It's now. It will go down as the biggest sale in automotive history. The $5 million sell-off.
McFadden Family of Dealerships $5 million sell-off November 14th through the 19th. Win free trips. 94 and 95 Fords, Chryslers, Plymouth, Hyundai, Isuzu, Toyota, Wise Buys, Hertz Rentals. All under one roof. Special financing and rebates.
The McFadden Family of Dealerships at the former James Way in front of the Chautauqua Mall in James.
You know, I could tell you why I sleep on a Spring Air back supporter. Special springs, lots of layers for comfortable support. But how about you like to see for yourself?
Mattresses from Spring Air Company are available at Little Guy, 323 Pennsylvania Avenue West in Warren.
Radio Shack to kick off ESPN's NFL Pro Bowl sweepstakes. To enter, drop by any Radio Shack, vote your favorite players into the NFL Pro Bowl, and you could win a trip to see the game in Hawaii or great Radio Shack prizes.
Here comes a voter now. She cuts left. She's racing towards the ballot box.
Uh-oh.
I hope you're voting for me.
Vote for you? You couldn't sack a bag of groceries.
Whoa! ESPN's NFL Pro Bowl sweepstakes. Enter at Radio Shack.
The other end of this pass, a man who's on the NFL Hall of Fame ballot for the first time in his career, Todd Christensen. I think he really changed the position, certainly in the early 80s, and helped lead the team to a Super Bowl, number 46, joining us up close. All right, you get 30 seconds on national television to tell us, with all modesty aside, why you belong in the Hall of Fame.
Why I belong in the Hall of Fame? Well, if you match the numbers, the 2 tight ends are already in, John Mackey and Mike Ditka. My numbers exceed that, in addition to the fact that I played on 2 world championship teams for which they did not. And so that's the objective appraisal. I think the subjective appraisal is more significant, and so we'll see how that transpires.
You think you'll get in?
I don't think so.
Ever?
I don't know. Who's to say? You know, in so many cases, it's like a beauty contest. Well, if it is, then I like my chances. We'll see.
You were not a glad hander, fair to say, in your career. You rubbed some people the wrong way.
No, and I appreciate the fact you preface it by saying, in all modesty, as if to say, like someone who always says, now tell me truthfully now. Well, what does that mean?
No, come on.
Come on.
Lie. Well, a lot of people lie. That's why you want to push the envelope.
Well, my inability to prime the pump, you know, to get to where I am today.
Prime the pump.
You know, I had to do it. You know, I had to do it on substance. Some people, like you, were able to do it on style. So it's one of those things.
All right, let's talk about the Raiders, and let's talk pointedly about the controversy that's developed. Bob Heisinger, the team internist and one of the team doctors, alleges as follows, that in the case of Kurt Marsh, who just had his leg amputated, the former team doctor, Dr. Rosenfeld, misdiagnosed, mistreated, and caused a lot of harm to not just Kurt Marsh, but several others. Kurt Marsh just had his leg amputated. What do you know, what do you feel about those allegations?
Well, first of all, I'm sad for Kurt Marsh, and if for whatever reason he might be watching this, I hope that all is well with you, and we remember you in our family's prayers. Second of all, with regards to this book, I don't understand what's productive about this. You could go to every team in the National Football League and find something wrong with the medical system, and I don't know the need for this tell-all. You know, it certainly caters to the inquirer mentality that exists today, but in terms of this changing anything, it's not going to.
All right, let me ask you more specifically on some of the claims in this book. And by the way, the name of the book is It's Okay, It's Just a Bruise, and it alleges that the team doctor, knowing that players were more seriously hurt, still put them out on the field in the idea of just win, baby. That he had a candy jar full of drugs and pills and prescription drug, dangerous drugs that players had easy access to in the locker room.
To be candid with you, I didn't know anything about that because that wasn't a part of what I was about. I was not a part of the fraternity that partook of the chemicals. But I will say this, that let's also take into account that the book tries to give you the idea or espouses the idea that there's no free agency on the part of the players. And you've talked to enough players to know, Roy, that these people want to go out and play regardless. It's a badge of honor to play hurt. And the one thing that you hear...
But was it a greater badge of honor to play hurt for the Los Angeles Raiders? Because if they didn't, they'd be cut.
Well, but see, that's ridiculous because I can't parallel that with any other experience because that's where I was. If you talk to players from other organizations, talk to everybody, talk to the one from each organization, they'll say that they feel compelled to play hurt because that's the nature of the beast.
You know the team equipment manager, trainer, I should say, who it was reported a few weeks ago was going to be released or fired or disassociated with the Raider organization for his unwillingness to defend Al Davis in the wake of this book. What do you now know about it?
Well, my understanding is that apparently that they've resolved that, that there have been some reparations made. You know, George Anderson has been with the organization since its inception back in 1960, and you know, that's somebody that the Raiders would dearly miss. And so as far as I understand, that he will be back.
Have you any personal regrets for ever taking that field at less than 100%?
No, none at all, because I understood the difference between pain and injury. The closest I came is that I had a broken bone in my foot back in 1980, and I remember calling up my father-in-law, who was a physician, and I asked him about this particular hairline fracture. I always made it a point to go to somebody else's opinion because I also was cognizant of the fact that those people who were with the Raider organization, they had one compelling motive, and that was to get me on the field, and I understood that. And so when I called him and asked him about that, and he said it was okay to play, I did. And so I never had that major dilemma that some of the other players had with regards to injury.
Before we go to the break, Bo Jackson, 1 week after suffering what ended up being his career-ending injury, a dislocated hip, was diagnosed as having a mild muscle bruise. Now, was that just because of the football, you know, subterfuge they were using that? Or is that just unbelievable denial on the part of the Raider organization?
Well, since I don't have access to the x-rays, Roy, I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay. So you're proud to be a Raider, proud to have been a Raider, and you see nothing wrong with the inherent criticisms of the Raider organization?
I think that that is something that exists. I think it exists in numerous teams. I'm not going to validate this one or any other. I know for a fact that it goes on in the National Football League, and to act like it doesn't will be putting your head in the sand.
More with Todd Christensen, Hall of Fame candidate, after this.
Clothing provided by David Rickey and Company, designers of custom clothing for men, California, New York, and the world.
They are our mothers and daughters, sisters and wives. They are our friends and partners. But 1 out of every 9 will be stricken with breast cancer. That's why GE created its new Senograph technology. It helps doctors detect tumors earlier, so a remarkable 91% cure rate is possible. So that all our our grandmothers and granddaughters, best friends and good neighbors, may live happier, healthier, and longer lives.
It's Red Lobster's Lobster Fest, our once-a-year celebration.
It's a lobster party, a maintail celebration. Got rocktails on the fire. Ooh, this is your invitation. It's the grandest Lobster Fest. Woo!
Now's your one chance to try new lobster appetizers and 7 of the most exciting lobster dinners ever, all specially priced. But hurry, it ends November 27th.
The grandest Lobster Fest.
Only at Red Lobster.
Killer three-pointers. Monster blocks. Startling steals.
Who says you always have to act like a lady?
State Farm is proud to present the 2nd annual Women's Basketball Hall of Fame Tip-Off Classic on ESPN. Saturday, Stanford plays Purdue, and Sunday, Tennessee takes on Louisiana Tech.
Todd Christensen also does college football for NBC. Did a couple Notre Dame games this year. We're going to get some quick thoughts. Notre Dame against FSU this weekend. Close, no cigar. They played pretty well against the Seminoles. How bad a season, and where are they going to end up, the Irish? We'll take a look at Ron Hollis, by the way.
Well, he's struggled, and a lot of the struggle is based on the fact that here's somebody who has yet to play college football, and already he plays the first game of the season against Northwestern, gets 4 touchdowns, 300 yards, and everybody's handing him 2 Heisman trophies and a couple of national championships. They just are not the team that they were last year when you could argue that they're the best in college football. This year they've struggled. He's struggled in his decision-making process, but let's not forget, this is an 18, 19-year-old kid, you know, a redshirt freshman. I mean, they're asked, you know, the burden or the onus for the team to be on his shoulders is just too much.
Penn State, we'll take a look at Kerry Collins running that team, and Paterno's got him rolling for the Rose Bowl against not your Oregon Ducks, but your old homestead, Oregon. Of course, you have a lot of ties there. Penn State looked to be the best team in the nation?
Well, I think that this win for me, defeating Illinois at Illinois down, I believe it was 21-0 or 28-14 at some point, to come back and win, that's the mark of a great team, not winning 63-2 or whatever else. I think that showed a lot about the character of the Penn State football team, but again, you know, it's up to the polls.
We have to go. We have just a few moments left, and we'll tie it up. Loose ends with Todd after this.
Up Close is brought to you by Russell Athletic. For really tough athletic wear that can survive anything, get Russell Athletic. Get tough. And by GE. From aircraft engines to appliances, we bring good things to life.
Pros wear Russell Athletic because it's made tough. It has to be.
Hey, kid! Hey, you got my lucky jersey.
Yeah?
I got kind of carried away. Can I have it back?
You gotta be kidding.
Come here, you little pipsqueak. You don't mark that.
No!
You want athletic wear that can survive anything? Get Russell Athletic. Get tough.
Who was that kid? I don't know. Just sign him up.
This holiday season, while you're shopping, we'll be dropping a ton of money in the Discover Card Big Payback. Now, every time you use your card, you're automatically entered in our holiday sweepstakes. The more you shop, the more chances you have to win. Weekly bonus prizes of $50,000 or land the ultimate $1 million grand prize. It pays to discover. The card with the big payback.
Watch how fast Dristan nasal spray works.
What do you smell?
I can't smell anything.
Use Dristan nasal spray. Now smell.
It's an orange. Dristan nasal spray just works incredible. I can't believe it.
Dristan nasal spray. Fast, effective relief.
The field is so deep now in tennis, and there's so much to enjoy. You see 2 guys digging so deep inside themselves that they push you to a new level.
The IBM ATP Tour Championship tomorrow on ESPN.
40 seconds left. Does Al Davis have the right to have an apology from ESPN for the Art Shell controversy?
Well, the man confirmed his sources, and last I checked, First Amendment, no.
Does he use that to intimidate? Al Davis, has he ever done it with you before?
Does he use that to intimidate? Does he try to manipulate the media? Al Davis? Yeah, I think so.
He's done it to you before, too, with the apology thing, with the legal action.
A couple of years ago, with regards to the Steve Berline thing.
Art Shell, what's going to happen? Is he going to stay around? Is he going to be the coach next year? What do you think?
Yes, I think he'll be back. I think that the balance that they had yesterday, the offense looked a lot better, and I think they've got a shot at getting a stretch run down the playoffs. They've got a shot at it. They've got a shot to go 10-6.
Todd Christian, we thank you again for joining us. Great insights, as always. Good luck with NBC Sports.
Roy, it's always your pleasure.
Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Travel provided by Continental, offering one pass where you can earn free travel faster than any other frequent flyer program.